Hi, everybody. I'm Jordan Ostroff with LegalEase Marketing, and this is Exhibit A Attorneys, where we interview attorneys and other experts around the country to talk about what it truly takes to be the Exhibit A of a successful attorney. And I think I'm lucky enough that once every 6 months, somebody else from the team joins me. So today we have Layne Crawford. For those of you that don't know, Layne is our director of words. So the one who oversees all of our copywriting across everybody who does the copywriting and gets it into that right voice, tone, perspective, etc. for everybody. So for those of you that don't know Layne, with over a decade of experience in professional writing and marketing experience, Layne has worked with an eclectic mix, I think to say the least, of clients.
Yes.
Fashion labels geared toward preppy sorority girls, wine and spirit brands that target tough guys, et cetera, et cetera. So over the last year or so, they've discovered a passion for legal marketing and are excited to implement their unique brand of copy strategies for law firms. Layne uses the pronouns they or them and is an advocate of trans visibility in white collar environments. And we are super lucky to have you at the team and also super lucky to have you at this episode where we are going to talk about 6 tips so your legal marketing web copy doesn't suck, with the lawyer caveat it may actually contain more than 6 tips. You'll have to find out by listening to the rest of this.
I had to
So
put that little asterisk there, may contain more.
yeah, of course. What did I miss on your bio? Because I know you've had such an interesting background, just like from the standpoint of working with, D-list celebrities, writing for all sorts of interesting brands. I mean, give us a couple more of the highlights.
Yeah. So I went to school. I went to University of the Arts in Philadelphia. I majored in communications. I cannot draw to save my life. So when folks think that I went to art school, they think I'm like a painter or a sculptor, and not anything like that. I went and studied communications. I focused on advertising and screenwriting. I did the screenwriting route for a little while. I wrote an animated comedy series and I pitched it to Adult Swim, was able to even like get a meeting and everything. This was like in 2014, 2015. And then I realized that I really like the marketing aspect towards my career and the advertising, aspect of my career, as opposed to, the Hollywood kind of writing. And yeah, I mean, like you said, I've worked with an eclectic mix of brands. We didn't mention in the bio, but I've even was a writer in the adult entertainment industry. So I have just a wide range of knowledge that I pull from, and to just in my copywriting, my everyday copywriting.
Awesome. So we are going to talk about tips to make your legal marketing web copy not suck. But before we get into that, I want to talk about our previous episode. So once you're done hearing this great insight from Layne, if you want to check out more Exhibit A shows, our last episode aired on Monday with Dan Lear of Gravity Legal. We talked about how to improve money management and accelerate your law firm's growth. That was the episode on Monday. So really talking about the best practices for e-signatures, e-payments, trust accounts, etc. Dan was nice enough to join us. But enough about that. Let's build our firm voice through copywriting. Take us away, Layne.
Yeah, so I created this deck, just 6 tips so your legal marketing web copy doesn't suck. Oh, sorry about that. Just I have noticed. So I have worked with law firms for over a year or so. I kind of fell into this, and researching things. I realized that a lot of law firms they do the same thing. A lot of the same copy. It's almost like, and I hate to say, copy and pasted from other law firms, and I've noticed that. So these are just some tips that I've come up with. Number one is avoiding keyword stuffing and writing strictly for SEO. This is like an issue that I've seen. I mean, it's not an issue, but this is what I've come across a lot with a lot of attorneys, is that they think that SEO is the end all be all. Like it is important to get on that, first page of Google, because it's like I said, if you're not on the first page of Google, you might as well be on the last page of Google, of a search. But people can tell when you're keyword stuffing. If you're saying, we are the best attorney in, Orange, Osceola, Lake, and you're like naming off counties, you're naming off things just so you can, get those keywords in. So my suggestion, instead of avoiding, doing the keyword stuffing, sorry about that, is to write to drive potential clients to take action instead.
Hold on, can I jump in before you go into that part? Because also from an SEO standpoint, pretty much all the algorithm changes are trying to get away from that stuffing and get towards what does an actual real person want to read about and how are they going to find their answer. So you are 1,000% correct. And also it will continue to, keyword stuffing will continue to help less and less from an SEO standpoint.
Exactly. So that's why that's going to my point, you should write to drive potential clients to take action instead. Folks are smarter, your clients are smarter than you think they are, really. Like, they can tell if you're writing for them, you're writing for Google. And like, that's the thing. It's like, you have to tell like a compelling story. It doesn't, like I say in the deck, you don't have to be like John Grisham, but you just need to have like a well thought out website, just so it can connect with the potential client. When you're doing the keyword stuffing and, it's all, we are the best and blah, blah, blah. You're not, there's this kind of like wall that you're putting between yourself and the potential client. You're making yourself seem like almost like this kind of like elusive idea. You don't seem like you'll be able to connect with clients.
Makes perfect sense. So before we go on to the next one, do you have any insight on how people sort of get into the shoes of their client? I mean, is this as simple as just asking prior clients?
Yeah, actually, it's funny that you bring that up because I mentioned that further on in this.
Oh, well, great minds think alike. For those of you that don't know, I was not given this presentation prior to it, so just like all the other ones, I'm winging this entire conversation.
Yeah, we're
like
all winging
every
it.
other show.
It's all good. It's almost Friday, a long weekend. We're fine. So here we go. Put yourself in your potential client's shoes right away, Jordan. You got it.
Perfect.
And then this is what I say is like, figure out what their pain points are. So this is like, just asking previous clients, what worried you most about your case? What was your experience like? So just asking those clients. And then that's when you can see, like, you'll be able to see, like I said, similar answers. And then that's how you can use to rework copy. So if you're coming from the perspective of that client, putting yourself in the client's shoes and saying, like, say if you're a divorce attorney, okay, like what you can ask your former clients, what were you feeling before you contacted my firm? And and like I said, like, you'll probably receive a lot of answers that are very similar.
And that also doubles as great conversation for social media posts or videos or whatnot, those things that your clients have in common.
Exactly. Repurposing, all about repurposing. So this is like, I like to think about USPs. So like your unique selling point. What makes your firm unique? And most law firms, most attorneys, you're in a marketplace that is extremely saturated. Unlike other, white collar, positions, you're not, a doctor. You don't have the luxury of being involved in, a medical group or an insurance. You're basically doing it on your own. So if you're thinking of your firm like you would think a brand, like anything, like you think of like Coca-Cola, it doesn't matter. You have to try to figure out what makes your firm different than the firm across the street, around the corner, around the other corner. Because there's a lot of firms out there that are pretty much doing, the exact same thing you are.
Yeah, I think the last time I saw the numbers, it was 1.3 million attorneys across just over 400,000 law firms.
Yep. It's that old phrase, dime a dozen, but you don't have to be a dime a dozen if you if you really hone in on what makes your, firm unique, I think of some, law firms that, they might have like some like, kooky kind of shtick. It's like, we're bikers, that kind of thing. That might work, for some folks that might work. It might not work for all, but it could work. And like I said, like, utilize what makes you unique in your copy. I always like using the example, like, back to family law. I always like using the example, if you're a divorce attorney, maybe you've gone through a divorce yourself in the same city that you're practicing in. So you come from a place of experience of being on the other side, not being just, an attorney, but you come from the experience of having, gone through that process yourself. So use that kind of, your own personal experiences, to craft your story.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And also, if you were the child and your parents went through a divorce, you've got a perspective along those lines.
Exactly.
I know when I first started out, my clients loved, I used to be a former prosecutor. So when I was doing criminal defense work, that was a great thing. I mean, figure out what it is that gives you that different mindset, observation, ability to see the case a little bit differently than the other 1.3 million attorneys.
Right. So this is a thing of using good call to actions. I see this a lot, that a lot of the call to actions on, a website, especially attorney, websites, it's very, book a consult, do this, but, those words and phrases, they might drive your potential clients away. Just think about it. So like, if you think of, book a consult, that might, conjure up like images of, oh crap, I have to like dress up, I have to do this, it's like a formal meeting, maybe I'm not ready for that. But in reality, it could be just a phone call, giving the potential client just a phone call, just to, hear them out and figure out what their case is about. So language like that is extremely important. So that's why I said, like, when we want to like use like lighter language, maybe that might not be your firm's image to use that lighter language, but like something like, chat with a lawyer, it's a lot less stressful than if you're saying like, oh, it's a consultation. But again, like I said, it's literally the same thing. We're just retooling those words so they don't sound as serious.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we're talking about this from the client's perspective. If you're doing business law for gigantic corporations, that scheduled consultation might be what they want. But if you're doing personal injury for, more, I want to say normal, but maybe that's not the right word, a less business savvy people. Yeah, there we go. Regular people. Yeah. Then obviously that chat or check in or, talk with is going to, well, one, consultation means different things to different people, but two, it'll sit with them a lot better.
Exactly.
Love it.
So this is a big one. Identifying your clients and write to them. Your clients aren't like just like this monolith of folks that there's always people when like I love doing brand deep dives and even deep dives into law firms when they're just trying to figure out their voice, and then they're trying to build their brand. They say, well, who's your ideal client? And they're like, well, anybody who, if they're criminal, or anybody who's gotten in trouble with the law, anybody who's gotten, anybody. Well, it's not. We need to. And you are playing on a field with, we said, how many million attorneys in the United States?
1.3.
1.3. So you're playing in that field. It's tons of people. So this is the thing. Like, you need to figure out who exactly you want to, who's your ideal client. Who do you want to work, who do you want to work with? And it's not everybody who's gotten, in trouble, or anybody it's not everybody. So you need to really, focus on who your client is. And then that's what you can do. That's how you can write to those clients. That's how you can figure out to tailor your copy and write to once after you figure out when you're identifying to them. And this is the thing. Don't write at them. Pretend you're writing for one person. So even though, there's going to be thousands of people, maybe millions of people, if you're one of those big attorneys, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be reading your copy, but you want to write that copy with a single person in mind. You want to write, and these are the questions that it's always important. These three, who's that person? How old are they? What reason are they reaching out to attorney? Those are the big three, in my opinion, for tailoring your copy. If you're writing to, an older demographic, a boomer demographic, then you're going to have to tailor.
Are you allowed to say boomer? Is that?
I guess. I mean, it's a baby boomer. That's a.
There we go. All right.
I'm not using as a negative. If you're writing to like a baby boomer demographic, you're gonna your copy is gonna be completely different. They might be interested in that more serious professional tone, as opposed to if you're writing for a millennial client, a millennial audience. You can be a little bit lighter, but that's the thing. You need to really identify who your exact clients are before just diving in on writing copy.
And I mean, and we're not saying, hey Jim, I can't believe you got arrested again, call me now. That's not what we're talking about here. No. We're talking about the demographics, the psychographics, the generalities among those clients of, we help teachers keep their education license. We help farmers get the right business formation. The more specific you can be, the more you're going to appeal to that ideal client.
Yep.
Awesome.
So this is the final one, and this is extremely important. And it goes back to the first slide of this. I say be human with the no robot, and I have a robot tattoo here, so take that with a grain of salt. But you can tell when you should write conversationally. That's pretty much it. And that's what going back to the first point. When you're writing for SEO, it sounds like your firm is being operated by a bunch of robots. And that's another thing too. Lawyers, you guys you do metric crap ton. I don't think that's the exact measurement of writing when you're in law school. But that style of writing doesn't really translate well to marketing. So that's how it is. Like if you're, think about how you speak with your clients, and then that's how you really should tailor your writing.
Yeah, totally. And that's kind of the benefit of, we've had a lot of those clients that we've done that brand book for, to get that voice so that there is that consistency. Because it's always weird to me when, you've got somebody who paid $15,000 for their beautiful, gorgeous, wonderful website, and then you call them and it's like the automated voicemail tree of if you're looking for so-and-so, press 1. Those things aren't consistent. And then you get an email drip campaign that's got a bunch of spelling errors because they didn't spend the same amount of money on there. You really need to have that fit you or your firm brand and be consistent the whole way through.
I mean, people still, I know most folks are into the, pretty pictures and stuff, but in this space, copy is so important. This isn't a space where, like I said, I previously worked in, wine and spirits industry, fashion industry. That's where it's pretty pictures, copy secondary. In this space, copy is number one. That's in my opinion anyway. It is number one. So once you focus on that, then you can focus on the other things later.
Yeah, I would say I'm of the Greg Eisenberg belief that we hate stock images.
Yes.
So, but at the point that you are you as an attorney in a suit in front of a bookcase, there's only so many ways to do that. But the way you explain that, the way you write that copy, the way you address that post, the reasoning behind you, standing in front of a car with your sleeves rolled up or whatever, that's really where you drive the value.
Yeah, you could have those images. You could have those images of, standing behind the bookcase and all serious. And then the copy could be complete, not that canned kind of copy. And it's oh man, this is hilarious. This is great. This is somebody I would want to work with, It just, you can use those kind of images. It's just if the copy is just a little different, that can be your differentiator.
So here's my question my first question for you. If I run a law firm and I want to start the process of, I guess it's probably rewriting all of my copy. I think that if somebody's doing it from scratch, it's probably easier, but a lot of our listeners or watchers are probably already in it, but know they have a problem. Like, what's the best way to start, or what's the best way for them to figure out where to start?
Oh, well, see, I'm going to say the best is to, hire a copywriter to, to suss that out.
There you go. All right. But
But if you
failing
want
that,
to
or in
do
addition to that,
it, I mean, if you want to do it on your own, auditing your stuff is great. Taking full account of every single piece of copy on your website. And if you're one of those, attorneys or law firms that, you're into the keyword stuffing and the SEO, you're going to have a lot of copy. It's just, you're going to have a page for every single practice area you do, and sub pages. You're going to have that, but it's best to just always, lay it all out, see what you can cut, see what you can, get from there. And then, use that to work with work with writing new copy. And again, I always, even if you want to, do it yourself, I always suggest, even just discussing your copy needs with someone who has a little bit of, a good background. Of course, it'd be great to have, discuss those needs with someone who has like an extensive background. But even if they don't, even if they have like a writing background that's not as extensive, just talk over with them and say like, hey, how does this read to you? Just asking individuals, asking your friends and family, like, if you were a client, what would you think of this when you read this?
So let me flip that a little bit. I love the concept, talking to clients, talking to friends, talking to family. And I think that's a consistent ongoing process. I think you have to constantly be reevaluating what's working and what feedback you can get. So let's say, I'm going to change my question a little bit though. If I were doing this, if I were going back through my website, I think I would start if I was going back through all of my stuff, I would start on the main page of my website. That would be the first thing that I would focus on rewriting the copy. All right. So you're with me there.
Oh yeah.
Then I'd probably move to my bio page.
I don't know. I mean, it could depend on the person. Me personally, I would go to what your biggest practice area is. And then clearly, if you have this, if you have the stats to back that up of, the most clicks I'm getting is for like motorcycle injury or whatever, then that would be the next area I would focus on, because that's what's getting the most eyeballs.
So I probably have the vain view on it, and you probably have the realistic view on it. So I'm with you. I'm with you on that. And then I guess once you have that practice area down, then I probably would start going through social pages and updating the main about us on social to reflect the new copy from the practice areas.
Yes. Yeah. Or I would actually flip that around. I would actually, instead of going to the social pages for me, I think that would be a little bit going towards the tail end. I think I'm with you of doing like the bio. I think the bio and, about your firm, I think that would come second in line.
All right. So it sounds like you would do the website first.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Completely.
All right. So get the website updated, then start moving into social. I mean, what about if you've got a newsletter, you've got email campaigns? Are those after the website, after social, before? Like, what do you think in that respect?
I would suggest after.
Okay.
Just even though like your website is still like your cornerstone. Your website is still, most likely the most important piece of your firm. It sounds like a 1998 idea, but it is true. Your website is still the most important piece, unless you have like a large social media following. But that's a side conversation.
But even then, I always think look, if my wife tells me a restaurant's great, I'm still going on Google and looking at the reviews, and I'm still going to the restaurant's webpage and going through and looking at what it looks like there. So I always think while social media might be better to generate leads, and obviously some people get a ton of leads through the website, I still think there's that client like vetting you on that website digital business card type concept. Yeah,
exactly. No, you're right. I mean, I'm the same way. If any new product or a new restaurant, I'm searching, and I'm going to look at their website, and your website is basically like that. It's your first impression, and first impressions really matter. They really matter. Your website is still your first impression for any potential client. Um, you know, that would be great if, if you got a referral from someone and, you ended up getting, their case, and then, that now that current client looks on their website like, damn, I wouldn't even hire them if I their website sucks. But that's it is true. That is your website is, it's that first contact with potential clients. So that's why it's like, focus on retooling your website copy, focus on that first, and then ease into and then ease into the other areas of your practice after. Figure out what's more important in line. So maybe if you do have a really great newsletter, that might be the second thing that you would want to revamp and look over for copy changes. If you have a large social media footprint, that might be the second. So it honestly, it depends on how your practice operates and where you're getting the most leads from.
All right, so I'm on board. I'm going to go through, I'm going to make these changes on my website. I know that I'm working with more regular Joes. I want more personality. I want less consultation, more phone call, chit chat, whatever. How do I figure out though my voice, or how do I figure out what personality of mine I'm putting into this copy?
See, that's where I would say, just, discuss it with an expert. It's almost like just, going on a deep dive of who you are as, an attorney. If you're, practicing by yourself, who, what your firm is, what are your values, who are your ideal clients? And then that's where you can, tailor your copy to that. If you're, more of like a, younger attorney, maybe you don't want to, attract a younger clientele. Maybe you want to, seem, more professional, and, and I get that. It all depends on, really understanding. I know this sounds like psychology talk for a podcast, but really get to know who you are. I'm not going to say namaste, but really get to know who you are as an attorney. And that will help you with tailoring your copy.
But how do I know? Look, the amount of personality, the amount of personability you put into it is going to change depending upon what area you have, depending upon your type of clients, whatever. But in terms of I know I need a little bit more of me in it. Getting to know myself, how do I know what of those personal things about me that are non-legal do I add in? How do I know, for me, the Dolphins, for you, the Eagles? If I want to work, how do I come up with putting in some of my sport interests in there? Or maybe it's more the time I spend with my kid, or maybe it's more I'm a car guy, whatever that thing is about you that makes you personable. How do you figure out what of that to include in the copy?
I mean, it can include it in, we'll talk back about bios. We're going to use a great example with LegalEase marketing. That's where we put a lot of our personality, and a lot of, when folks go on our site, they'll look at our bio and they're like, oh, wow, we're getting, kind of like a little opening into, who these people are that are going to be, working on our marketing. Is this a person that I would want to work with? Probably, yeah, because, I can relate to them. So you can put that kind of information in in a bio, even in pictures, and like we were saying before, stock imagery. Even if you have to do it, try to, at least work with, a designer just to try to make, to make it your own. But you can make it in, imagery. It could just even be just small things, it doesn't really necessarily have to be with copy, unless we're talking about the bio. That's where you can, show that, showcase that personality, but just imagery too. Even if, like you said, you're a Dolphins fan, I'm an Eagles fan, even if it was wearing a little, Dolphins watch or something, just small little things like that. Be like, oh yeah, that guy's a Dolphins fan, me too. I can connect with them on that level, because, it's just, you get what I'm going with it there,
And a lot of it is going to be learned through doing. if you talk about your interest in food and your interest in sports and your interest in whatever else, you might see more audience reaction on your firm page for some of those things, and then know that like that's the part of your personality that happens to vibe with the audience better.
Yep. And that's where you can really, and that's where, we're discussing website earlier, and, the website, yeah, you can put that personality there, put that, in the bios, but that's where you can definitely utilize social media. That's where you can utilize, your, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, even, especially TikTok. That's where you can really, showcase that, what your USP is, what your unique selling point is, what makes you different than, the million and point whatever attorneys there are in the United States.
So as we get towards the end here, is there anything else that you want to make sure we cover, go over, anything I cut you off on, any other tips you want to share with our listener watchers?
No, I'm just going to drive home the point of, just stop writing just for SEO. That's, and that coming into this, year and a half ago, and, looking and researching and seeing a lot of attorneys' pages, it's just, I see that so often, and I see that more often than other industries, is that keyword stuffing thing. And it's just, it's not good. It's not good. And like you said, it's changing anyway. So it's like, it's going to look, so it's that keyword kind of stuffing copy is just going to look dated, and it's just going to look like I said, it's just going to look like it's written for robots.
Makes perfect sense. All right. So so today is Thursday. We are not going to have an episode on Monday because that is our celebration of July 4th on July 5th. So there will be no episode there. Instead, our next episode is going to air next Thursday. So a week from now, 1:30 Eastern time, next Thursday, we will have Stacey Brown Randall on. Stacey is the host of a great podcast. I almost used the Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. I almost called it the Let's Get Up to Business. The Roadmap to Grow Your Business podcast. Stacey walks through how you come up with a prospecting plan, a referral plan, all of those things to get referrals without asking. Recently, she's been talking about how you do this in a layered strategy. So how you overlay your clients, your potential clients, your current clients, etc. So she's going to come on next Thursday, 1:30 Eastern time, to talk to us about the layered strategy to referrals that every law firm should have. If you have not had a chance to hear from Stacey Brown Randall, I highly recommend it. She is a phenomenal point of wisdom, a great person, and a podcast that I listen to religiously every week for, I think, 150 something episodes at this point. So, but that will be next Thursday. I'm not going to let you go, Layne, without your diamond nugget of wisdom, your last piece of advice. It can be something we've talked about already. It can be something totally different. But if everybody's been listening to this for the last 40 minutes, takes nothing from it except what you share now, what is your biggest piece of advice on how other lawyers can become the exhibit A of a successful attorney?
Figure out who you are as an attorney, and figure out, what your differentiator is. 100%.
Yeah, I love it. And I have never talked to anybody that can really, truly, and fully answer those foundational questions who is not successful. Like, the more you have that stuff down, the easier every other conversation becomes, every other decision, every marketing campaign, every whatever.
So important.
Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Exhibit A Attorneys. If you're interested in becoming the Exhibit A of a successful attorney, please check us out at LegalEaseMarketing.com, EASE.